Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Lewis Swire, an 18 years old award-winning social entrepreneur, founder of Reel It In, a youth-led campaign tackling social media addiction, and co-founder of the Global Young Entrepreneur Society, amplifying young voices in innovation and leadership worldwide. Lewis, so great to see you, and welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
Well, so awesome to have you here and truly looking forward to this conversation. Lewis, you're now what, 18 years old
Yeah.
and already a multi-award winning social entrepreneur. What was the earliest spark that made you want to dedicate your teenage years, not just to building projects, but to tackling issues as big as mental health, online safety, and youth voice?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think there was never really like one moment as such that stood out and sort of like got me involved with this. I never um started with the intent to be an entrepreneur as such. I'm pretty sure when I began I didn't even know what the word meant. But it was always about building things and providing value to those in my community and those I love, and also serving myself in the process. Like for I think the first real organization that I founded was the Curious Times, and I started that with a huge passion for journalism. English was always my favorite subject at school, and I knew loads of friends that shared my passion, so I called them up, founded the initial editorial board, and built the website on Wix, so super accessible platform. I didn't know any coding skills or anything like that. And I think that's what it was really about, working with the people that lift me up and inspire me every day, as well as a huge social impact angle as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, you're doing an amazing job. When I saw your profile, I came across and I said like, well, I need to talk to you. And we hopped in a call and we truly had a great conversation and truly looking forward to do great things with you. Lewis, many young people notice problems in society, but stop at the frustration stage. And I don't blame them. I mean, right now we're really living in a world where there's so much distraction. There's so much pressure also as well, also the dangers of social media addiction, not just with youth, but also with the older people, but especially with youth. Tell me a little bit more about like what are you doing with Reel It In and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, just on the point of, a lot of young people stopping with frustration, I completely understand that. And, for other issues, I've been that person too. And it's not like an easy thing at all to take it beyond that point. And often, the pathway is not clear of what the next steps would even be to, change making in a specific sector. I think for me, for Read It In, sort of like my founding story, I used to be on the board of Childnet International, or the Youth Advisory Board. And my partner Sammy and I were doing a speech for Safer Internet Day 2024. And we went up to deliver the speech. And just shortly before we were going up, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes or so, the speech was essentially torn up. We weren't allowed to use the word addiction, and we were speaking about social media addiction, which we had, evidenced and done a lot of research for and identified as, the most important and pressing technology related issue to our generation. So the speech that we had written and had spent a lot of time building was essentially taken away from us and massively watered down. And again, to not use the word addiction when you're talking about social media addiction is quite a strange thing. So obviously this level of censorship was pretty difficult for us to deal with. And we fought as much as we could in the short period of time, but then went up on stage and, inevitably had to deliver a speech that wouldn't get us torn off air. So, coming away from that experience of Safer Internet Day, we did some research and found that ChildNet were actually funded by some of these big tech companies themselves, a little bit like the tobacco regulators were. So that was a pretty clear injustice that we were very, very close to, close proximity to, that we weren't simply willing to sit around on our asses and not do anything about. So, that I think was one of the key motivators for getting into the game, as well as, of course, the lived experience. And I've been at ballet school this last year, which is again very close proximity to, unfortunately, a lot of mental health difficulties, which I can really empathize with, and see the role of social media in exacerbating, as well as the impact in the classroom when I was still at school as well, in a more academic setting. So it's huge. Anyone in my generation will at least know someone that is impacted by it, if not themselves. And what we're doing is building a youth-led campaign to end social media addiction, or at least we're trying to. And that really comes in two main components. The first is lobbying. So working closely with the UK government and the House of Lords to implement legislation in the UK to protect young people from the addictive design of social media, not just young people, but also, the adult population as well. Because like you said, it's not just an issue that affects young people. And the second side is our digital awareness campaign called Project R. So for that, we are aiming to impact 10 million young people over the next 12 months. Unfortunately, using social media, but understanding that that is the best way to meet young people where they're at.
Yeah. Well, I always say, like, use it to your own advantage, right? But I can tell you, I mean, right now I have a system where, because obviously it requires for me to be engaged in the social for the work that I do, but I have a system where I have a timer, and every time I go to social, especially to some, let's say like a Facebook, which is the scariest one, I put the timer, and the timer's like has 2 minutes why I'm there. And sometimes I just go there and I put the timer and I forget why I'm there because of the
Everyone does. It's
distraction
so
that
difficult
comes
not to.
and just pulls you in. And I can imagine people who don't have those kind of systems, they get pulled in and all of a sudden they find themselves within an hour in the platform and just watching and chasing whatever content, and it never ends. And so that's really huge. And you are like you're going with really, and you're tackling one of the most powerful industries in the world, like Facebooks and all these guys. What has been the hardest moment where you felt the weight of going up against these tech giants?
Yeah, I mean, the moment I just described there, at Safe Internet, it was pretty stark for us because it was so short notice and had a sort of physical representation in front of us where, like, the script we were reading actually changes and our actions are directly impacted at that time. But I think that in the bigger picture, like you're saying, there's a huge lobbying power of these companies because they've got billions to throw at making sure legislation doesn't attack the core of their business model, which is monetizing the attention of their users. So that impacts all of our work when talking to politicians because all the politicians I have spoken to, get emails every week saying, "Come to this football match that we sponsor, come to this event, the TikTok run," and that is a very difficult thing to deal with. And also, you got to recognize that the political system relies on social media. So, if I was like running for prime minister, I would need to use social media to actually build a campaign, and win people's votes. And also, if social media companies are against me, then that's a huge and often unnecessary opposition for these politicians. So that's quite difficult. But what is good and what is on our side is the data. And the data that we lead with is, that the average person my age loses 6 hours per day to social media, which is astonishing. That's like 42 hours per week, 91 days per year, almost 20 years of your life, right? If you live to, like, your 80s. So, and just spending, I think Vivek Murthy, who's the US Surgeon General, found that spending just 3 hours, half the average per day on social media doubles your risk of mental health issues like depression and anxiety. So on a micro scale, it's really impacting young people's mental health and productivity as well. Uh, some of my age is productivity in the year 2000, like their attention span was 12 seconds. It's now only 1.3 seconds per ad. So there's a big difference. It's very visible. So it's obviously impacting society on a micro and macro level. And I'm really interested in the bigger picture stuff and, trying to motivate politicians to understand that, if we want to maintain the strength of our democracy and a cohesive society, then we need to take people away from very polarizing echo chambers and that kind of environment digitally that social media promotes.
Yeah. And also, I mean, these algorithms that they design and they engineer, it's like they engineer to suck people's time and get them to the a situation where they're starting to also to compare, right? And so imagine, like, I mean, Facebook has so much data of lurkers, for example. Lurkers, they are so active by being inactive. Literally, they don't take any action, but they're there. They're glued in front of a screen for hours and they don't do anything. They just watch people scroll, go into another one. And that creates something that we start to compare and starts to create something really strange in people's eyes, in people's mind. So I think we truly have to do this, and the work that you're doing is truly amazing, truly our inspiration for a lot of people out there, especially for young people who you're just stepping up and trying to do the best to make it happen. In your work, you're challenging not just technology but culture itself. When you look at that, what fears do you have about the future of generation, not just for your age, but also for as they go into the world and using.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the relationship that young people today have with technology is a big fear. I think in the bigger picture, though, I'm pretty concerned about the direction in which the world is heading, uh, away from the ideas of empathetic leadership and even basic values and skills like integrity and listening. We've lost the ability to actually listen to one another, and we're just pushing each other as society further and further away from like a pragmatic and open discussion. So, I think social media plays a big role in polarizing society. But if I could, fix any of my fears for the future, for future generations, that would certainly be one of them. To be able to unite people and prevent this massive distancing behind people that actually do have so much in common.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah, well said. If you can imagine yourself 10 years from now looking back, what is the story you will want people to tell about yourself, the Lewis Swire, and the change you helped bring to the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd hope in 10 years that I would be pretty proud reflecting back on the work that I'm doing now with Relinin. I'm already very proud knowing that it actually, makes a difference. I mean, the lobbying work is quite difficult to quantify, but what's exciting about Project R, which is our awareness campaign, is that, we actually will be able to have quantifiable data that says, we have been able to impact and change the lives of 10 million young people. And that for me is a big goal and a big milestone that I'm like really excited and motivated to work towards. And I'd hope that, if people were reflecting back 10 years from now, that they'd say that I progress on that journey with integrity and with the values I hold dear, and don't compromise on those just for um progression of mission or increasing influence or power.
Amazing. Louis, we're looking forward to work with you. You agreed to work with us in this program that we announced last year, and that is like next generation bold leaders. You'll be also judging one of them out of all of the selection we have. One of them will be awarded. What are you looking forward to this program and also to the event itself when we all come together?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. And I think most excited because I know this was an opportunity that, I wish I had known had existed for me, a few years ago. So it's an incredible opportunity for exposure as well as, the networking and being part of, I think, the wider Bolt community, which is, an immensely valuable thing for anyone that is early in their career or building experience or any of these things. Besides the event itself, which obviously is in Barcelona, and it's black tie and a pretty exciting thing to be a part of. So I'm beyond excited to be involved and also to be judging obviously one of the categories. And yeah, obviously
Amazing.
really looking forward to meeting all the talented young people that are going to get involved.
Likewise, Louis. And I always ask this as the last question to my guests in the podcast, and that is about the word bold. What does that mean to you personally?
What does bold mean to me? That's a great question. I think it will be to do with a bravery, a willingness to be brave and go out into the world with relentless authenticity. That's what it means to me.
Bravery. I love that. Braveheart. Reminds me of Braveheart.
Yeah, well, after all, I'm in the Scottish Highlands right now, so maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, that tells you from there.
Yeah,
Louis,
exactly, exactly.
so great to have you. Hope you're enjoying the last day in the summer, and looking forward to seeing you soon in London and also again in Barcelona. And up until that time, take care, be great, and be bold always. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
See you.